Hey there, this is Patrick with Dallas Hockey Hangout, coming to you after a 2-1 Stars shootout victory over the Colorado Avalanche in Ball Arena in Denver. Biggest game of the year, right? Can't hold anything back. If anyone wants to tell me what movie that is, they will get a shout out on the next podcast. And everyone can enter. But yeah, I mean, this is as big of a game as it gets. Obviously, we know what's on the line for both teams. There's the 1 seed, there's the President's Trophy, there's not facing another Central Division opponent in the first round. There was a lot on the line. Dallas has played so well lately that they forced this to be a conversation again. And I really just don't want to go any further when discussing this game and their run without being more explicit about the fact that Dallas is without its second best player. Not to get into rankings, but if I had to rank players in terms of importance on the team, I'd say it's Miro and everyone else. But I think you can make a really strong case for Andre being 2. But I'd say, at least as it applies to the guys not between the pipes, I think with Mikko Rantanen not being a part of this run, and Dallas is still beating Colorado in Colorado, I mean, we have to view this team through that lens. So we start every show with how should we be viewing this team? And it's as a team that just pulled to within 2 points of the number 1 seed without its best forward, and then add in its best two-way forward. And we know what Roope Hintz is arguably one of the Stars' top 3 or 4 forwards and has been for a long time. You know, you've definitely missing Foxa, although the bottom 6 has just been playing spectacular lately. So yeah, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat this game as far as I'm not going to sit here and say Dallas got dominated by Colorado, but they got outplayed. And that's why I wanted to make a point. Like, so let's just review what's happened. Dallas has beaten Colorado twice in Colorado this season, and Colorado has won once in Dallas. So if this does pan out to be some sort of a playoff matchup, then, you know, I'd say that Dallas is doing pretty well. Like, I don't think a lot of teams, and let's look, I don't think a lot of teams win in Colorado very often consistently like Dallas does. You know, look at the playoff history, but I mean, Dallas is not scared of playing in Colorado. So let's just do a quick look. It looks like their first 2 losses. Well, first off, they don't lose in regulation, Colorado, at all. Their first regulation loss at home was a 7-3 loss to Nashville. And their first 4 were 3 shootout losses and an OT loss. So look, I mean, Colorado doesn't lose very often at home. And I think any win you can get from, in Colorado, I think that's just crucial. And the fact that Dallas is doing it without Mikko Rantanen and the other players, and I don't want to ever forget to leave off, Tyler Seguin. And, it's just an absurd consistency from this team right now. And again, getting back to, kind of how should we be viewing this team? And obviously, Dallas is, just in quite a groove right now. Yeah, I didn't pod after the Utah loss, but I did want to, let's just jump right into that. I went to every one of those home games during that stretch of 6 straight home games. And I got to say, by the 6th one against Utah, I was pretty exhausted just from like the traveling and, going to the game and all that. So if I'm exhausted just as a spectator, how are we feeling about the players playing that many games? I think when you look at these, you got Colorado, Minnesota, and even Vegas for that matter, I think it's not inconceivable to think that Dallas was looking ahead during that Utah game. But that said, it was 2-2 headed to the third. And, Utah just, played better, jumped on Dallas's mistakes and obviously wanted it more. I think that's clear though, given where they are at and the standings. And Dallas maybe had its eye on Colorado. So however you slice it, this is a big victory. I think the like prevailing phrase after the game was like, hey, you'll take the 2 points. You're not overly thrilled with how you played, but I mean, let's jump into that. Just we'll jump into the recap and I'll kind of give you my takeaways from all the big moments. But I do want to note, let's get a final shot total. So Wedgwood, 17 of 18 saves. Oettinger, 33 of 34. So Dallas did fight back in the third and they played better. It's interesting though, looking at the advanced stats, really that took a jump in Colorado's favor late in the second, and Dallas, fought back in the third. It was more even, but largely they were underwater. But that said, I want to get to my main point here, and that is that I did think that Dallas did a good job defensively holding Colorado to the outside, and seemed like Colorado was fine taking point shots. They have great eye-hand coordination players on their team. I'm a big believer in that philosophy. But that said, well, I mean, look, Dallas is they blocked almost 20 shots. And so just that alone from, shots at the net type deal. I mean, Colorado had a pretty big advantage. But that said, I did think Dallas was pretty selective or forcing Colorado to shoot from the outside. That said, I mean, where would Dallas be without Jake Oettinger in this game? There were some moments though, like not to skip ahead, but I mean, it's, Beck all alone midway through the second, and that right after Dallas scores, and that could have given a 2-1 lead for Dallas. And like, how would that game have transpired after that? So overall, I think Dallas played great defensively. The advanced stats, are pretty heavily in Colorado's favor. Expected goals for was almost 64%. But that said, I mean, how many times have we seen Dallas go into Colorado and just be under absolute just duress and just being shellacked in the first 10 minutes? And I think Razor had noted that after the game. But yeah, and that just didn't happen. It was just so low event in the first period. And I can't help but feel like that is, first off, that definitely in Dallas's favor, in my opinion, like wildly. Dallas doesn't want to get into a track meet with Colorado. We've seen that can be how the games pan out. We've seen that that's how the playoffs have demonstrated, but also we've seen low scoring games. We've seen goalie steal games. We've seen tight games that go to OT, and Colin Blackwell is the hero. So and I can't wait to do a more in-depth breakdown, but I like Dallas's depth, and I think that I don't think there's much of a hole in Dallas's game right now, and I think that when you see this big matchup in this big game, it's in Colorado, and I think Dallas did what it needed to win the game, and that's all that matters. Listening to Gollison after the game was interesting because he was not overly upbeat. I feel like he's typically an upbeat guy and is typically optimistic and is always, seeing the forest for the trees, which I really is one of my more fascinating idioms in this world, because how do you look at a forest and not see the trees? That's all you should see. Think about it. Anyways, just really positive guy after most games. And, he wasn't overly positive for this game. I think that he knows that, his team got outplayed, but also he did make a point to note that Dallas outplayed Colorado in Dallas. And how did that fare? Colorado won that game. So I really thought that game in Dallas, I mean, Dallas really was playing really well. And I mean, look, if this is a playoff series, it's going 7. Like, how could you? I'm not sure how you could see, and same energy for if Colorado plays Minnesota or if Minnesota plays Dallas. Like, these big teams, like, it's going to be a war. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be certainly a war of attrition. I would expect, the winner of the 2-3 matchup in the Central to be pretty battered. So I think that's why Dallas is fighting to get that 1 seed. I think it's important. President's Trophy curse be damned. That said, excuse me. Let's launch into the game recap. Yeah, just noted that interesting that Huru came out of the lineup in favor of Bastion. I believe they replaced Bastion with Huru after Bastion had scored, a few games ago, which I was a little surprised. But I think that's about, Huru's up with the team right now. Let's get him some playing time. I think that's crucial. But also, I think against Colorado, I think Dallas wants to have size. I think that was really important. I think that's why also Dallas got Myers. I think that's why they got Bunting, even though he's not a big guy. I do think he plays big, and they're going to need all types of weapons. I'll touch on the physical nature of the game in a little bit. What a great game this was. Before I launch into it, what a great game. I was looking forward to it, for so long, and despite the 8:52 start, which is just, I hope the NHL figures out something better for the playoffs. I don't envision that being the case, but those like 9 o'clock starts are just killer. And then, if Dallas is lucky enough to make it to the third round and you play a Pacific Division team, and boy, those are going to be late starts. I'm getting tired just thinking about it. But anyways, yeah, Dallas is, this was a huge game, and I was really excited to look forward to see just how they'd match up. And there's another good one later in a couple weeks. And obviously, we'll touch on the Minnesota game coming up. But I mean, this is what you hope for as a fan, big games that are litmus tests and tell you how you're feeling about the team and what you can be working on in the last 15 games of the season. And you're not really worried about making the playoffs. They're not, but specifically Dallas and Colorado. But that's a really good place to be in this time of year, and not everyone has that luxury. So, it's just a really great time to be a fan right now. And even when Dallas is not playing its best hockey, they're getting victories over the number 1 team in the league by standing. So, and another just note, I've been kind of hypercritical of some of the national media. I wasn't too pleased with the coverage of the game after the win, but I do also chalk that up to it's a late game, and but they do then the around the league segment. But I don't know. I really love TNT. I would have preferred Paul Bissonnette on there, just because I think as much as, he is comedy and entertainment, I think he and Whitney do such a great job of talking about the entire league, all the teams. And I just think that's really crucial for building interest in the league, is for national guys, showing love to the lesser talked about teams. And so then to see TNT kind of do again, it's pretty strange. I think they gave Dallas a tiny segment, but then they launch into how great Cale Makar is. And yeah, I get that the game was a shootout. And I'm thankful that they interviewed Oettinger just to get him some visibility and love. And obviously he had a terrific performance. But yeah, I think that they could have done a better job of letting their analysis reflect the Stars winning that game, because, it was a lot of, well, can Dallas get the 1 seed? And they were seemingly not willing to really go out there on, the matchups and how these teams might really fare in the playoffs. Because if we're really doing a fair look at it, Dallas has the advantage in goal, even though I really like Wedgwood, obviously. I think they have the advantage as far as defense lineup 1-6. And I think when Dallas is healthy, I think their forwards, it's a push, at least for this game. Obviously, Colorado has an edge. And anytime that you have the second best player in the world, I think you would always give Colorado a forwards edge in most of their matchups. But that said, if Mikko is healthy, we know what he did in Game 7 last year against them, and would put him right on that level with McKinnon. So yeah, let's just launch into the recap. Interesting that for both teams, the first save of the game came 6 46 into the game. I thought that was pretty interesting. Such a slow start, very tentative, a few whistles. I love the Bischel showdown, stare down, I should say, on Nichushkin. I don't miss Nichushkin. I'm gonna, I don't think he left Dallas the best way. And, he's really taken on that villain role. And also, it was pretty interesting hearing his name floated at the deadline after he just signed that big contract. So he's had a pretty bad season for them, but he's been playing well lately. So he's definitely a villain to the Stars these days. So Dallas got its first shot with a seemingly pretty easy robo shot with just 4 minutes left. That's pretty crazy. I need to start doing better job of. I just hate that they will amend shot counts in between periods and during intermissions. That really bothers me. So I kind of stray away from like trying to get too pigeonholed on, oh, hey, this team had this many shots in this period and blah, blah, blah. So, but yeah, strange holding penalty on Nelson that led to Colorado's first goal by Makar. I got to say, those penalties are so frustrating. And if you see Ben frustrated like that, I think that's like a sign that was a pretty tough call, because I do see Jamie more often than not skating to the box quietly. He is the captain. He has a right to talk to the refs a little bit more than most, but he was pretty animated, and you can see he's saying he's holding me. And yeah, refs get called by that like chicken wing clamp on the stick, and it makes it look like holding or hooking. And man, the offensive player more often than not is a big part of that. And later in the game, they call that ridiculous. It's so blatant interference by Makar, and then they call bunting for the embellishment. I'm not going to judge whether or not I thought he was embellished, because I I just don't get that call. First off, like, just then don't call the interference. I just don't do that. But they see it, they call it, and then they're like, oh, Bunting fell a little extra harder. Let's give him the extra 2. But like, he wouldn't have done that if there wasn't the interference call. So I think most people would agree the simultaneous real call and then embellishment call is just really strange. But anyways, Dallas was really scrambling on that PK. And look, yes, the talk is Colorado's power play is third worst in the league, I believe it is. But they don't look that way to against Dallas, and obviously that's a narrative that might continue into the playoffs. But I mean, largely, I think that Colorado has too much skill, and despite having bad, if I had to guess why they're bad, I think that they've probably force feed McKinnon too much. I think it stunts their like normal, quick, speedy play. They get thinking a little bit, but also that happens to like all the teams in the league. When Dallas had before its crazy run of what I think was 12 straight games with a power play goal, they didn't extend that this game. But before that, when they were struggling, it was because they're tentative, or they were also looking for the perfect play. And that happens to all teams and all skill levels. So I really don't care about that percentage, or just Colorado's rank. I do largely would evaluate it as a good power play, just because I know the weapons they have. And, adding Kadri, I think, was really important to give them some extra pop on that. And, I will say, just as an aside, was really kind of, when you see Dallas's power play, it's interesting to see, okay, it didn't work after the first 110, and then they bring in the second unit. But I'm so used to seeing Mikko staying on for most of the first unit, and they just give that the first unit more time. And that's changed, obviously, with him being out of necessity. But I'm curious to see how that kind of ratio of how much is Dallas going to give that first unit the majority of the 2 minutes. And yeah, I am super intrigued to see how that pans out. But to just touch on the Makar goal, like, I mean, Dallas is, I think they said I would love if this data was more readily accessible, but they said on the broadcast that Dallas was in the zone for a minute 22. And man, when you're scrambling like that, you can't get the puck out. Like, it's tough. Like, you guys are getting tired. It's tough to make scrambling plays. It's tough to not get yourself out of position. Dallas eventually, I think it was Riskovian that just got slightly out of position. And again, this is against one of the best defensemen in the world, and Makari's able to just kind of snake his way through there and get the shot from the slot. Great shot, just puts it in. Obviously, Ottinger's a little out of position, but rightfully so because it's scramble time. So, but right after that, in the last minute of the period, Ottinger makes a great pad save on Nelson, and certainly could have been 2-0 there. Robertson had a good chance on a forced turnover with 10 seconds left. That was at least sort of a good sign to see. And obviously, Robertson had a good game. He's one of the few plus players, obviously, scoring the only goal for the Stars. And they did that relatively quick into the second. Didn't want to forget that play by Essa Lindell on the goal line. He's kind of like, he gets it with his glove about like chest height. And man, those are scramble plays, and it takes clutch plays by that. And, guys like Essa it's just, that's why he's so underrated. That's all hockey IQ of, hey, my goalie's at down and out. I need to get in there and just be an extra pylon, so to speak. A good pylon, not a bad one. So yeah, that was early in the second, and that keeps it at 1-0. And, finally Dallas gets on the goal. Bastian gets in on a 2-on-1. See, that was also seemingly with Dallas, part of their game plan is they seem to be happy playing low event hockey and letting, hoping and letting odd man rushes develop. And the second they did, so Bastian gets a 2-on-1, and his shot goes off the right post and rebounds right back out to Robertson, who quickly puts it on net. And if Robertson hadn't been so accurate about that, man, there's a real chance that Wedgwood makes that save because, man, first off, I miss seeing Wedgwood with the Stars. He's such a likable guy. His family, I really love that he's just down to earth with his love of Mario Kart. I love that stuff too. And, it's just a family man and just a great player, great human being. And it was tough to lose him. And if it was any other team, I would, be rooting for them strongly. It's tough that he's with Colorado. It was tough when he was with Nashville. Colorado got something with him. I'll touch on that probably in the season previews, but I think obviously that's an advantage for Dallas. Oettinger is better than Wedgwood. I think that's clear. So, but yeah, Wedgwood got that paddle on Robo shot, and just what a great desperation save. And, an inch higher with the paddle could have been, awesome save by Wedgwood. So anyways, yeah. And then Beck shortly after that gets that breakaway and off the post. That could have been 2-1. It's just again, this just contributes to why I thought the game was so good, is that it had swings. Both teams were in it. Dallas's chances were very high grade chances. They just had less of them. And I think Colorado was more willing to take lower grade chances. And, did it work out for them? Probably not. I think the next game in Dallas will be different. I think you're going to see some different strategies from both teams. So we'll have to reference back to this game for sure. And yeah, wanted to note the hits. Dallas is out hit early 10-5, if I'm not mistaken. And then, with 5:35 or so left in the second, I believe the hits were 18-17 Dallas. Now, part of that comes from not having the puck, but Dallas, I mean, look, there were some big hits in this game. The Myers one on Parker Kelly was just, he had a couple. And yeah, I saw like maybe a Colorado beat writer or Twitter finger guy saying that I think that he felt as though Colorado would be confident playing against Bischel and Myers pairing in the playoffs if it came to that. I'm not so sure. Dig up that Myers-Bischel sandwich of, I think it was Kelly, but man, I'm telling you what, it just takes one hit from one of those guys to take one of your guys out. Imagine Bischel going through the paint and knocking your goalie out like McKinnon did. Without being too hyperbolic, this defense core is about as good as I can remember in a hot minute. So definitely, I think, better than the last couple years, just with the emergence of Bischel and the addition of Myers and And knowing that if Dallas does get into injury trouble, that they do have Lyubushkin there, they do have a Petrovic there, especially if they lose one of the bigger ones. So yeah, I think careful what you wish for with the Twin Towers on that third defense pair. So yeah, just was reviewing my notes. I mean, a lot of shots from the perimeter from Colorado. Obviously, Colorado likes to get in transition, and they were getting shots, or I should say, passes through the box, through the slot. When they do that, they're very dangerous. They get those one-timers, and man, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Jay Conjure. It's hard to get over to that other post that fast. I think McDavid and Draisaitl are a great example of why that play is still effective in the leagues. Especially when you can shoot from those crazy angles like Draisaitl can, and RIP. Yeah, and then look, before the end of the second, you get that crazy save on McKinnon in the slot, dead slot, and just Andre stones him with his glove, and then it's actually his sleeve, I believe, and just man, there are so many puns that could have been had there, and the commentators wasted no time going for that little trick up his sleeve there. Big save, obviously, and yeah, a cautious start, I thought, to the third for both teams. I thought it was a really weak penalty on Myers that they called, and thankfully for Dallas, that didn't end up getting them. But Andre had to make a good save on Makar from the point, and then also one of his went off the post. So, I mean, that's just all contributes to it's clear Colorado could have won the game, but it's also clear that how the timing of some of the stuff shook out, that also Dallas was in the game. I feel like to say that that it was not a close game would be, you know, not indicative of really how the play was. So nice one timer from Natchez, but he didn't elevate. Andre makes that save. Dallas gets a power play late when Cara's tabbed for too many men. And I noted White had a good chance in front, but Wedgwood was sturdy, and it's clear he has the book on Dallas to a certain extent. He looks so calm playing Dallas, and would be very shocked if when they meet in the playoffs that to see anyone but a Wedgwood. So although we going to get a Pavel Francois sighting, potentially seeing, someone else for Colorado. If there's an injury there, like Colorado always seems to find themselves in, strange goalie predicaments. I think a lot of the diehard Colorado fans would be very quick to say that, that's a reason that Colorado hasn't been able to match up. But I mean, Blackwood and Wedgwood, the Woods have had a great season together, but you can only play one of them in the playoffs. So it seems so far that Andre has the edge. But what a great OT period. Dallas wins possession. Good chance for Miro. They're being very specific about not giving the possession away. That seems to be the prevailing strategy. Just don't give possession away. And even if you have to waste 2 minutes passing the puck around, I do think that there's a lot of strategy happening now, more so than let's just get in and get some kind of chance, and it goes both ways, and maybe you'll hit on the second or third one. But I don't, at least from how I see Dallas is approaching it, I don't think Dallas wants to exchange chances. They're very considerate with their offensive looks because they didn't want to give the puck back. When Colorado did get it back, they looked good and got not a ton of looks, though. I mean, pretty easy save by Andre on McKinnon, and Harley did have that sick back check to come back on. I don't remember who it was, but it was a nice 2-on-1, and he's picking him up and putting him down, coming back into that play. So he's not the OT quote unquote hero, maybe like he has been in the past, but that play didn't go unnoticed by me at all. Robo had 2 great chances, I thought, 2 great saves by Wedgwood. Robo just missed late, and then goes to a shootout, third shootout of the season between these teams. Man, it's so interesting watching Robertson and Wedgwood go back and forth, because if I had to say number one move for Robertson, it would be shooting low glove, but he has not shot on the forehand. But he hasn't done that in a couple times now, because if I remember correctly, he tried going backhand 5-hole a couple games ago, or the last game against Colorado, and then this one he outweighted him, and then you can kind of see Wedgwood flinch with the blocker, which was interesting. But then, I mean, he outweights him and is going backhand, similar spot, but Wedgwood's glove is right there. Just such a great save by him, and then another great save by Wedgwood on the 5-hole, being patient on Duchesne there. Val didn't do his Forsberg move there. That was pretty interesting that he didn't go for that. Nate just went high glove and missed pretty badly. And then obviously, look, Wyatt is just coming down. He's going slow. He's stick handling a bit, and he does that. I'm going to do it for you for the video. He does that little shimmy shake there, and that just gets Wedgwood to pause enough. And Wyatt roosted top shelf, and kind of in an embarrassing way, just the way it looked. There's just not much Wedgwood can do on a perfectly placed shot by that. And the kid's got the hands. We know that. We know Wyatt can shoot. So yeah, just a sick goal, the Steph Curry shimmy, if you will. Dallas gets the win. Just wanted to know if you can see my board here. Yeah, it's going to go to, if these, and I'm sure if it goes, these teams play each other, they're going to be some overtime games. So it is tough that all three of them have gone to shootouts, but very indicative of how close these two teams are. That said, I hope that in a couple weeks when Dallas plays Colorado April 4th, that's 3 weeks from now, I would expect Mikko Rantanen to at least be back by then. Dallas is playing at home there. So yeah, be really interested to see what that matchup looks like, if maybe Dallas has a little bit more of an advantage, or it's more indicative of the game in Dallas a couple weeks ago. So 3 stars. It's Oettinger, obviously number 1. I do think it's cool that I think they might let like local coaches or something pick the 3 stars there. So not going to tear those apart, but it's tough to have 3 stars and 2 Colorado guys when they lost. I did think Wedgwood was great, but I'm going to have to do Oettinger, number 1 star, Robertson, number 2 star, Makar, number 3 star. Makar was really great and really noticeable. Wedgwood was great, but 17 saves. I'm just, they're splitting hairs there. So yeah, and great. Just a terrific game. As a hockey fan, I'm just not really sure what else you could want from 2 great teams going at it. It's going to make the last 15 games of the regular season mean something for these teams. And obviously Colorado has the game in hand, but Dallas is on a tear right now and might be getting Mikko back. So they're in a really great place. And, that was really important to see Dallas rebound after a tough loss to Utah. So yeah, we'll just, Dallas has another good one coming up, right? Minnesota on Saturday. There is an extra day in there for Dallas. So it'd be interesting to see, how that sort of shakes out. Minnesota's going to be playing tonight against Chicago. So they'll have a game in between. Given how much Dallas has been playing hockey lately, I'm sure that they can use the break. I'm sure we'll see a refreshed team against Minnesota. But that said, Minnesota's been up and down lately. They're 1-3. They were coming off a 3-game losing streak. It took OT to beat Chicago. Previous to that, they lost to Philadelphia and then New York and Toronto. And right now, New York and Toronto are not playoff teams. So they lost to them at home. Not the best. So they're up and down. I do really think that Minnesota is a great team. So just because they're having a down way of it, it's interesting during that little stretch, both Wallstedt and Gustafsson played. So I would expect to see Wallstedt against Chicago tonight and then Gustafsson against the Stars, but I'm not sure. Let's see here. Other times they played Gustafsson the first time and they played Gustafsson the other time. So maybe they will give Wallstedt a look because, they lost 5-2 early in the season. That's a lot's changed since then. They beat Dallas 5-2 at home in mid-December. So a fair amount still changed from that point too. So we'll see. Should be a great game against Minnesota. I'm really looking forward to watching Quinn Hughes. He's just such a joy to watch. And, obviously Minnesota has a lot of skill. It's going to be, you want to talk about a physical game against Colorado. It's going to be real physical against Minnesota. I definitely expect that to be a beat 'em up game. So Dallas gets a 2-1 shootout victory over Colorado in Colorado. At Patrick Hayslip on Twitter. DallasHockeyHangout@gmail.com. If you have any thoughts or comments, questions, please reach out. Yeah, Dallas is cooking and getting players back. So have to be feeling good if you're Stars fans right now. So thanks for tuning in. Catch you guys next time. Have a good day.